Hello, students, and welcome to the fifth and final part of our lecture on Chapter 4. We are talking now about labor unions. Now, some of your parents or grandparents or family members may be a part of a labor union, and we're going to learn about their history and why they formed. First of all, they formed because some capitalists, some entrepreneurs, some owners of factories, some industrialists were taking advantage of working men and women in this country. They were making them work in sweatshops, which we learned about in the last video. They were living in company towns. They were very poor, and sometimes they were not paid as they should have been. And their conditions were more dangerous than they should have been in the factories. So these unions began to form. Now, this concept where workers unite together to try to fight for change is called collective bargaining. And the concept is bargaining and sticking together as a group makes you more powerful than each man bargaining for himself one-on-one, one man versus the company. With collective bargaining, it's the entire group against the company trying to better their conditions. Now, the first national trades union, the one that covered the whole nation, was the National Trades Union in 1834. An idea that is sometimes associated with unions is socialism. In a socialist economy and socialist government, they believe that there should be public, not private, control of property and income. What that means is a socialist believes that the government should own the property and the government should own the factories, and all the people are workers, and in theory, they all get paid the same amount of money. Now, when this has been tried in countries around the world throughout time, this has not been successful and has not worked. However, some people that were pro-union advocated socialism and still do today. Along with this also is the Communist Manifesto. This is an idea that was put forward in 1848 by two men, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Karl Marx, though, is more closely associated with communism. In fact, communism is also known as Marxism. So Karl Marx said that eventually all the workers of the world would revolt, take over the factories and the land, and establish a new world order where everyone got paid the same amount of money and had the same amount of goods. Now, this, of course, has never happened, and countries that have claimed to be communist have not been successful and have not had very good human rights records throughout time. The bottom line is, in the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx denounced capitalism and said that it was a corrupt system and that we needed to create a system where everybody in society all had the same amount of goods and the same amount of money and everything was equal. This is not a realistic concept, and again, this has never worked successfully in world history. One of the major unions around this time was the Knights of Labor, which was founded in 1869. Now, the Knights of Labor included skilled and unskilled workers. The difference is between a skilled and unskilled worker. A skilled worker has been trained to do a certain job. They've gone to some kind of schooling. They've got some type of certification. An example of a skilled worker would be a mason, someone that lays brick and stone and blocks. They have been trained. They know a trade. They know how to do it. An unskilled worker would be someone that does just manual labor, such as digging ditches or something that doesn't require training. So the Knights of Labor took in both skilled and unskilled workers. They were not too successful until Terence V. Powderly took control in 1881. He expanded the union and made it very, very popular and very well known. Their main goal was large social gains. They wanted to change society. They wanted to change the whole system so the working man would have a better situation, would make more money and have better conditions. So they had very big, high, lofty goals. To counteract that, we also had the AFL, the American Federation of Labor, which was founded in 1886 by Samuel Gompers. A couple differences here. Number one, they took only skilled workers. They did not accept unskilled workers. They only took skilled workers, those that were trained to do something, a trade, a certain job. And they also did not aim for very large social changes for their workers, but only small day-to-day gains. In other words, a raise over here at this factory, or shorter working hours at this factory, or safer conditions at this factory. They wanted the small day-to-day gains versus the Knights of Labor, which wanted large social gains. Now, we're going to talk about some famous strikes during this time. The first one we're going to discuss is the Haymarket Square riot that happened in 1886 in Chicago. Workers were demonstrating. They were holding a demonstration trying to get an 8-hour workday. One of the strikers threw a bomb into the crowd. A policeman was killed. They arrested 8 anarchists. They tried them, and 4 of them were executed. The Knights of Labor were blamed for this, and because of that, they became very unpopular, and they eventually fizzled out. And the employers that were associated with the Knights of Labor, they went into other unions that were in existence. And something else is that employers began to associate unions with violence. Whenever they would think of a union, they would remember the Haymarket Square riot, and they made unions look very, very violent. In fact, they all weren't, but some of them were at that time. We also have the Homestead strike that happened in 1892 at Homestead, Pennsylvania, in one of Andrew Carnegie's steel mills. The plant manager at the time, Henry Frick, was in control. Carnegie himself was out of the country visiting in Europe. The plant manager, Henry Frick, ordered the Pinkerton Guards, which is a private guard company that you could hire to come give you armed protection. He hired them to come into the factory, and a 2-week standoff occurred between the Pinkertons and the workers. This again hurt the reputation of unions because they were further associated with violence. The union finally called off the strike. And the last is the Pullman strike of 1893 that happened at the Pullman Palace Car Company. The owner, George Pullman, cut wages by 24%, or almost 1/4 of their wages. The workers sent a delegation to try to negotiate with Pullman, and he refused to do so. The workers then called in a man named Eugene V. Debs, which was a big socialist during this time and a very, very popular and prominent union spokesman. They called him in to try to negotiate. They would not. So, under the leadership of Debs, he orchestrated a nationwide strike which stopped nearly all railroad traffic in the entire country and virtually paralyzed the nation. Essential supplies could not be delivered because there was a railroad strike and no one was operating the trains. Because of this, the president at the time, Grover Cleveland, sent in troops to end the strike. Debs was sent to prison, and this yet again hurt the reputation of unions because people were very upset they couldn't get the essential products they needed because of this strike. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.